Need you. You're the only one I care enough to hurt about. I need you, like the flower needs the rain.
Perspective on the day ahead. Bloom.
Private and blockchain. Hi, I'm Jane King, and thank you for watching. This show is all about public, private, and blockchain companies. We bring you the innovators behind the companies making the headlines in that space. Some are sponsored, some are invited, all are curated and focused on telling you, the viewers, their story. Here we go. COVID vaccines are one way we'll be able to resume a normal life again. And one company working on a COVID vaccine is Tonix. And the CEO and founder, Seth Lederman, is here with me to explain what they're doing. So, Seth, if you could just kind of start your background and why you decided to be a founder of Tonix.
Well, Jane, thank you very much for having me on and your interest in Tonix. I was a professor at Columbia Medical School, and I founded Tonix to work on important problems. And we've been working on pandemic preparedness for quite a while. I started my career researching HIV. And like many people in the COVID fight right now, the roots of my interest go back to HIV, and a lot of the tools that we're developing were tools that were developed to fight HIV. But now Tonix has grown. We're on NASDAQ, we're publicly traded, and we have quite significant research going on in a number of areas. But we are a research-driven biotechnology company, and COVID is one of our important programs.
Now, we know that Moderna has emergency use authorization from the FDA. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson is working on that. Can you kind of explain where your vaccine is and how it would fit into this kind of family of vaccines that we're seeing?
First, it's wonderful that the mRNA vaccines already have emergency use authorization, as you say, and I can't wait to get mine. I think that this is a very important step forward for the country, for the world. I think it shows the importance of novel technologies, but there are some unanswered questions, and we are busily working on ours because we think ours has attributes that those vaccines may or may not have.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the mRNA technology, and my understanding this is the first time it's been used in a vaccine, and it requires the vaccines be really cold, like 95 degrees below zero. So that is one thing that just logistically makes them more difficult to administer, correct?
Yes, and it's remarkable how the United States has been distributing it, dealing with this huge problem. And even under the best hands, sometimes if vaccine is stored at the wrong temperature, it has to be discarded. So this is it's a limitation, but it's also reflective of how incredibly quickly these vaccines were developed. I mean, less than a year. So I'm in awe of what was accomplished by Moderna and Pfizer and J&J and AstraZeneca, but you're right. Ultimately, we really need vaccines that can be stored at more reasonable temperatures that once they are, either thawed or reconstituted, can be stored in a regular refrigerator. And also, we need these vaccines also for the rest of the world, where, for example, in remote places in Africa and India and other places, it's not practical to get something like a Pfizer vaccine deployed there. So yes, ours is designed to be much more robust. And, when it is mass produced, it can be shipped around the world with reasonable storage conditions. But again, the product attributes of ours being more robust, easier to use, etc., that's part of the reason why it takes more time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the Moderna and Pfizer are two doses. What are you working on?
Yes. So ours is a one-shot vaccine. And again, that's a very important attribute because it's just human nature. People don't always come back for that second shot. A surprising number of people don't come back for that second shot. And in thinking about vaccination as a public health issue, everyone needs to be protected when everyone gets the adequate vaccination. So if you have people that are not adequately vaccinated, you're really not protecting the rest of the people. So it's not only a convenience issue, but it's an issue about really protecting the public.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of timetable would you say that you're on? What's next for your vaccine? What does it have a name yet? I mean, and then where do you go? Like, when might we actually see this implemented in a doctor's office, for example?
Well, let me take baby steps first. We are rushing to manufacture it at a quality level that's acceptable for human trials. So we expect to accomplish that this summer, and we expect to commence human testing. Will initially be safety testing this year.
Okay.
So that's about as far forward-looking as I can forecast right now, because it'll be dependent on how desperate society is in 2022 for how quickly we can move forward. If, for example, there's the belief that the existing, maybe by that time there'll be 4 or 5 EUA vaccines. Mm. If people think that the pandemic is really under control, we're going to go through a more traditional vaccine development. But on the other hand, if these strains are confounding everyone, if things are really not going as planned, then there's an opportunity for us to move faster.
Well, yeah. Well, that was one question: was if I'm vaccinated, do I still have to wear a mask? But that forward transmission is still a question mark, right? We don't know, even though we're vaccinated, we don't know if we can still spread the virus to somebody else.
Well, let me say unequivocally, people who are vaccinated should continue to wear masks, should continue to practice social distancing, should continue to hand wash, and be just as scrupulous as they were before they were vaccinated. Mm-hmm. One of the common misconceptions of vaccination is that some people believe incorrectly that vaccination protects someone from getting infected. That's simply not correct. Vaccination only changes the outcome of infection. So someone who's vaccinated can still get infected and they can still spread it. But a successful vaccine would lead them to, for example, not die or not wind up on a respirator, et cetera.
Okay.
So I certainly hope that people that are vaccinated will continue to be to practice all of the safe measures that we've been learning. It'll be a long time before we're out of the woods with those, those precautions.
Okay, long time. Year? No, longer? I don't know.
In Asia, people in Tokyo, people were wearing masks, 15 years after SARS. So I think that masks are going to be part of the landscape of humanity.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing, Seth, on this, because for us non-scientists, we rely on you to, keep us healthy and live a normal life and get back to work and all that. So we really appreciate what you're doing. And please update us as you continue to do studies with this vaccine.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, and thanks for your interest in what we're doing.
Cannabis stocks have been among the best performers this year, and the thinking is maybe it's time for federal legalization of cannabis. So with me, two experts here to talk about this. We've got Keith Stauffer, the CFO of TerraSend, and also Matt Carnes, the founder of Green Wave Advisors, to talk about this industry. It's really been a hot industry so far this year. Keith, let's start with you. So we've got a new administration in the White House, one that is at least perceived to be friendlier to cannabis regulation, a Democrat House now as well. So, I mean, what do you think this might mean for the cannabis industry?
Hi, Jane. Thanks for having me. First of all, it's tough to kind of take bets on where the government's going to head, but I think if I were just to say what would be best for a company like TerraSend or other multi-state operators in the U.S. in the industry, I think the first changes would be centered around banking reform and tax reform, 280E tax. And then the third would be some ability to uplist to U.S. exchanges. So if I just take the first couple first and take banking reform and tax reform and just apply it to the TerraSend example, just the hard cash savings from those two types of changes could equate to north of $1 billion of enterprise value increase in a company like ours.
So, Matt, I mean, we saw in November, 4 or 5 states pass varying legalizations of marijuana. It was South Dakota and Arizona, and I'm trying to remember all of them. There were several. Do you think that this will lead to more growth? And what is the size of the industry and the expected growth?
Sure. Well, thank you also for having us this morning. I would say that, yes, more states legalizing will contribute to the growth. It takes probably about a year or so, a year to 18 months for a new market to get implemented if there was no existing market. So in the case of this past election, we had Arizona and New Jersey, 2 existing medical markets that are robust, that are, Arizona actually has already started selling recreational use. So there'll be a quicker ramp up in sales revenues, going into this year and next. The size of the market last year, estimates are estimate about $20 billion for 2020, and going into this year, roughly about $25 billion. Most of that growth, again, is other states that have implemented a couple of years ago are starting to ramp up, and as well as the new states that have come online. So most of the growth is coming from new states, and then those existing states, we're starting to see some real organic growth year over year. And so, longer term, I mean, my crystal ball only goes out maybe 2 years. I think it's really hard to handicap year by year at this point because we're very close to the end zone. So I would just say, I look at the market now just after going to 2022, out to about, I would say the market at maturity is about 70 to $80 billion. And that doesn't even include the CBD market. This is just the retail sales for the THC products by and large.
Now, do you think it will have to be federally legal before the banking happens and the listing happens? That's the next thing that needs to happen for this industry, would you say?
There has to be some, not full federal legality, but there has to be some type of safe harbor language that's developed in these acts that will enable the exchanges to conclude that that they can list these companies.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Matt, I mean, how should potential investors or people who are in this industry how should they watch it? How should they invest in it? Is it too late? I mean, we've seen a big run up in cannabis stocks already this year. And then what should they look for when looking for cannabis companies?
Well, first of all, I would say it's not too late. It just really depends on your time horizon. If you think of it in terms of just where we are in the industry's growth, if we are at 20 billion last year and it's expected to go to 80 billion plus, we're like maybe even not even a quarter way there. So as much as these stocks have run, I really don't think they're valued to maturity at this point. So there's a long way to go. Now, can I predict the bottom and now get in? No, I mean, obviously there's volatility, but if you're in for the longer term, you really can't go wrong in many of these multi-state operators that have started to demonstrate real operational efficiencies and improvement. And what I would also say is once prohibition ends, as I was saying earlier, there is a cost of prohibition, right? There's a high tax rate, there's compliance costs. Keith would know better than I, really all the nuts and bolts that are behind everything. But really, once prohibition ends, and folks like TerrAscend, companies like that, and some of these other MSOs that are demonstrating free cash flow generation, once you get rid of all these prohibition costs, the free cash flow profile of these companies really dramatically will accelerate, in my opinion. So I think there's tremendous opportunity. And what I would look for is solid management teams. I mean, we've seen instances in the past, maybe some companies have gone public too early, didn't have the background, the experience, etc. I think most of that's behind us, and right now it's a very bright light going into the future for the sector.
Okay, well, I mean, it certainly feels like the stars are getting aligned for this industry and various things. It is becoming more publicly accepted. We've got a patchwork now of states that have various ways of legalization, and perhaps federal will come at some point. So once we get through the pandemic. Well, thank you so much, Keith and Matt, for joining us and explaining this I know a lot of people are really interested in this industry. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
NextechAR just launched a new version of its music app, Airshow. And we are going to be talking to CEO Evan Gappelberg about this. But Evan, before we get into that, just give me a little background. We've talked before, but somebody may didn't see our conversation. Can you talk a little bit about the company and, where you're traded? I know you're over the counter. Just give me a background.
Sure. We're listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol NEXCF. The stock trades 400,000 or 500,000 shares a day. It's a pretty liquid stock. And I think our share price is right around $5, $4.50 to $5, right in that range. So yeah, that's our market cap.
That's right. So, so tell me a little. So you're a pioneer in the AR space, and one thing that was really interesting the previous time that we talked was that you're kind of a pure play in AR, where a lot of companies are in this, but it's a small part of their overall company. You're actually kind of ahead of some of the big tech companies, and when it comes to augmented reality.
Yeah, when you look at the industry, you have all these big players like Apple, where AR is just this tiny little fraction of their business, whereas with NextechAR, it is our business. Augmented reality is where we started. We have a full tech stack, be it web AR, which is augmented reality without an app. You don't need an app, which eliminates a lot of the friction points. Whether you want to use augmented reality for e-commerce, we have a solution for that. For education, we have a solution for that. For entertainment, today we just announced that we released our new 2.0 version of our Airshow app, which is human holograms for the music industry. So you can have a hologram of your favorite musician or star or thought leader in your home with you, as if they're there, but it's actually just a hologram. So yeah, we have a lot of tech that is within NextechAR that really sets us head and shoulders above any of the competitors, and really defines us as the pure play augmented reality company.
Now, some really futuristic, fascinating stuff. And we introduced a little bit with the music app, but there's also, you have an AI chat that was launched, and this is something kind of Zoom is just now getting going on, or tell me about that.
Yeah, so there's a company called Hopin, which has a almost a $3 billion valuation. And they have an events platform, basically. We also have an events platform, which was every bit as valuable, in fact, more valuable, because we have AR in our events platform as Hopin. And so within that platform, this event platform, we've integrated chat with AI features, which means that if you're chatting using our chat, we could turn you into a human hologram and move you out of the screen into the room with the person you're chatting with. And so, there's video chat, there's also, just text chatting. It's got AI and AR. So within the chat, you can have an AR experience. And then if you think about that chat functionality, we could break it out of the platform and have it as a standalone product and sell it to other companies, which is a whole nother revenue opportunity for NextechAR. So lots of technology, lots of new technology that we keep bringing to market, and super exciting time for us.
And any other plans or goals you have?
Yeah, 2021 is going to be a breakout year for us. We're global. We grew in 2020 from 30 employees to 235 employees in 1 year. And that was 2020. In 2021, we're starting off with 235. I actually think we're up to 245 employees now, because our business is demanding that we keep hiring. When you look at our technology, it applies to e-commerce, it applies to education, it applies to virtual events. And so when you add it all up, it's over $7 trillion in total addressable market. And when you think about that kind of opportunity, Jane, you need an A-plus team to tackle that big a number. And so I think it's important to note that my COO is an 18-year SAP veteran. My CMO is from Apple Computer. My chief channel officer is from VMware. My chief experience officer is from Disney. The president of our ad network was the president of Microsoft Online, who ran a $10 billion ad network for Microsoft. He's now the president of NextechAR's ad network. And then when you look at my global expansion opportunities, we have the director of our APJ region, Yao Boon, who is from IBM. And so it's a lineup of all-stars is really the messaging here, is that we're talking about guys that have come from multi-billion-dollar companies to join NextechAR and turn us into the next multi-billion-dollar tech company.
Okay, well, we look forward to getting updates as you reach your goals, Evan. So great to talk to you again.
Great to talk to you, Jane.
Bosagora is focused on building an open, decentralized blockchain that ensures transparency. So with me is the Chief Marketing Officer of Bosagora, Johan Lee. Great to have you here from Seoul, South Korea. So it's wonderful.
Hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Jane. And I'm very glad to be here.
So can you tell me just a background of Bosagora, introduce yourself and what the company does?
Sure. I'm Johan, the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Bosagora project. And Bosagora is a public blockchain platform that aims to make a better world. We are creating a whole new financial environment, financial environment that is secure and convenient. We plan to help majority of cryptocurrency traders around the world to make higher profits by investing in traditional financial world, such as stocks or real estate markets. Thank you for having me here, and I'm very pleased to share my story.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to hear about the company. So, and you explained that you want to create a new financial environment. So you go in a little more detail about that.
Sure. We are literally making new financial environment, a unique financial ecosystem no one has ever experienced before. We named this TFI, True Finance. First of all, we offer a very special staking reward rate system. The way to participate is almost the same as conventional blockchain platforms, but the compensation rate is not the same at all. We offer an annual rate of 37%, and it is the minimum rate. Not only that, TFI has a unique structure that allows users to earn additional fixed income. Bosagora has its own currency called BOA. By lending the staked BOA coins as collateral, we generate additional profits from the traditional economy. It's kind of, one source finance, but used in a multiple ways.
Wow. Okay. So all this that you're telling me is showing me how much the world is going to be changing when it comes to the financial system. It's just incredible. What are your plans for the future, both, let's say, near term and medium term?
Yeah. Well, in the first half of this year, before our CoinNet will be launched and the actual staking service will begin, we plan to launch 2 programs. The first one, which was worth about 2 million USD, opened last week, and we think it was kind of great successful launch. You can check the result in our website t-fi.io. And from the later half of this year, after the CoinNet launch, the confirmation reward through node operation will be officially released. By early next year, Chainlink Oracle will be linked to our trust contract to create the first DeFi to generate revenue from the traditional economy.
Okay. Wow. Very interesting, Johan. Thank you for coming. And let's do an update as you get through this year and you start to introduce the coin and have more projects on hand.
Yeah, sure, I do.
Great. Thank you so much.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions and views expressed do not reflect those of Bloomberg LP, its affiliates, or its employees.
Have you heard of nuts.com? It's the best kept